On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are discussing Star Trek, the original series 103, the Corbomite Maneuver, right after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome into Star Trek Universe. I am David C. Robertson. You are Effie Oppelers.
And I am. Yeah, sorry. Was I that off on my timing that you had to jump in and introduce me?
You know,
we should really get this intro thing figured out.
It wasn't your fault. I don't know.
We were both hesitant. Anyways, hi. I'm Effie.
And I am Dave. You know me. So this episode, Corbomite Maneuver, we're continuing our little series within a series, reviewing episodes of the original Star Trek. And then we're going in production order, in case you were like, 103? That's not the third episode.
How dare you? It's the 10th, according to Wikipedia and all the other listings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's confusing for me to, like, tick off on TV time as well, because the pilot is a special, and then season 1 is all over the place. And it's I have to keep saying never, like, for this show, check off all the previous episodes, and it still doesn't remember that, so I have to click never every single time.
No, Chekhov's not on it yet. We haven't. He's not here until the second season.
Yeah, no, I that's good to know. I know nothing about the character. I've heard the name. That is it. I cannot go further along with that reference other than recognizing it as a reference.
Fair enough. All right, so the very short summary on Memory Alpha. Exploring a distant region of space, the Enterprise is threatened by Balak, commander of a starship from the First Federation. That's it. That's it. That's their summary.
Fair enough. I forgot the First Federation stuff already. Is that an established thing? Does that come back at all?
No. We never hear from the First Federation ever again. Not in televised canon.
That's good to know. Yeah. Well, I figured.
There are some very interesting little stories and sequels and stuff in novel form, but I doubt you'll ever get to those.
Of course. Oh, no, I do not have the time to start collecting 100 novels, let alone read them.
100? 100? I've got, like, probably over 500.
I know you do. I don't know how many are out there. Just if I say I don't have time for 100, right, let alone...
I think it's close to 900 now, but I'm not sure.
Christ, they just keep pumping them out. I don't know where people get the time.
I mean, it's been 60 years.
Of course, but how many writers are allowed on this IP? It's especially just in prose form, because Christ, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not finished up with my own novel. I'd imagine at some point I'd get tired of writing for other people's characters.
Well, you know, the thing is...
Maybe it's the fan fiction type thing where people really like delving into an established world. I don't know.
Maybe, but, you know...
Probably different kinds of writers.
I'm talking about, like, starting off in whatever it was, 67 or whatever, when the first one came out, and... You know, the 90s, there was a really big blow of just, oh my God, like there were like 3 series, then 4 series, and like
it's always the fault of the 90s.
They had so many novels in the 90s.
Oh God. We should get to the episode, probably.
Sure. One of the things I think is really interesting about this episode is it almost feels, and it's not officially, but it feels like a third pilot.
Yeah, I get that. It's very much not around the story. It's built around, we're introducing a bunch of new characters that are going to be your main cast from now on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fleshing those out more and like introducing people like McCoy and Uhura and Sulu and Scotty. And at that point, I'm like, okay, that seems to be the focus here. Just establishing the crew more than... having a really tight plot or anything, because I feel like this one just sort of went on and on and on, but then when you get to point C, you really don't see the connection to point A anymore, because they're trying very hard to like misdirect you, and at that point you're that goes for the other episode as well. I think we've mentioned, but it's the okay. We're trying to see if there's a threat there. But he's like Balok is testing their good intentions.
Yeah.
So but that requires him letting them escape to see if they'd rescue him. But that is after all of the threatening bullshit and the poker bluffs, and it's it just sort of keeps going to a place where I don't see the whole anymore. There's just parts that perfectly make sense, because the chess versus poker thing is a very fun solution to the problem, but then the problem turns out to be something else. Because I get that they go ahead and save them, but then the twist around that he's fine is just, wait, did you just think to do that just now, or was that the plan all along? Because they had to put in some effort to break away from that tractor beam, so it's there's a lot of confusion in there as well. Because that just leaves me like, okay, but why are you threatening to destroy the ship? Like, what would you have done at the end of the 10 minutes if they hadn't bluffed? Are you just testing their intelligence and their good intentions?
Yeah, that's exactly what Balok's doing.
I guess, but it flows somewhere. Yeah.
I think I'm okay.
He has a scarier alien built just to intimidate the Enterprise, and then it's both seeing if they're smart enough to escape, and otherwise they're not worth talking to. But if they're smart enough to escape, he has to test if they're nice enough to come back for him. So I guess, yeah, it felt overly complicated in the moment, where it was just like, okay, this is a twist that sort of came out of nowhere for me, and you didn't have enough time to let that sink in of like, no, this was a coherent plan all along. I feel like that was where it was sort of to me, where like, yeah, I get what you're trying to say, but I'm not sure it all worked. It just sort of kept going and didn't then. It felt segmented in that way. And of course you have the natural flow of between commercials, but it is I say natural, that's weird. It's still arbitrary, but those segments sometimes just feel like, okay, how did we get here? How is this the same person we're engaging with, I guess? Which requires you to go at the end like, oh no, it was all pretend. Okay, so
yeah, he needed a companion.
At that point, I think I would have loved to know, okay, so there's a giant ship he's in control of. He's the only one, and also
the Viserys.
But do they have that power and that intelligence to blow up the Enterprise and not really care for most species? Or which parts are like, how benevolent is this Balok? Or that's like, I feel like at the end you just get the twist of he looks like a baby and nothing beyond. Like it's just you have a weird face instead of the other weird face and not, you know. Yeah.
You know what? This is why when Kirk was like, I have questions, Balok said, of course, but first, the Tranya. He's like, no, we're going to get drunk first because this is going to be weird.
I suppose that explains. I should have had some drinks before watching.
You should have had some Tranya.
Yeah. Where do I get that? Is that an American supermarket thing? Because I feel like you have a lot more options than I do.
I don't know, but I think as I told you on this show, or not off the show, I mean
off the record.
Yeah, the kid playing Balok was Clint Howard, who is a very well-known character actor and the brother of Ron Howard, who was, Opie on the Andy Griffith Show, and he was on Happy Days, and he's like a really big director now. What's really great is Clint Howard comes back in Discovery as some like random lowlife on a planet.
That's amazing.
Who's like guzzling Tranya. He's not playing Balok.
That's good. That's good. I love it when they like honor the past in really dumb, subtle ways.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, I don't think this was like an incohesive episode. I think it was a mostly boring episode.
maybe that's it. Maybe I'm trying to find too much in there.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, it just sort of it just sort of goes on and on, because there's moments you remember, and then there's a whole lot of in between. Because
Right.
I remember the resolution more than the tension building of just, I don't know what's going on, but that has so much time spent on it that the resolution feels a bit rushed or not thoroughly explained. But
Mm.
also, I probably was looking for explanations a whole lot in those segments where you get bored.
Yeah, I think this is most importantly a character piece. Like there is that. I
Yeah.
feel like there's a very clear moral here that like not everything is as it seems. You know,
Hmm.
so you
Don't be prejudiced. Yeah.
don't be prejudiced. Don't like just go crazy and try to kill people. You know, them shooting
Doesn't
the
quite
cube in the
work. Yeah.
first place is what got them into hot water anyway.
Yeah.
So, but
Maybe don't destroy shit.
right, even if it keeps you there for 18 hours. Now it's time to blow it up.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, I did like, as much as it was kind of boring to me in times, like I did like uh, the slow boil, watching Bailey just kind of breaking under the pressure, and it's one of my
Hmm.
favorite examples of how really hard Kirk is on his crew, because he's such a dick to Bailey, dude. He's such a dick. And McCoy is just like, you promoted him too quick. You
Mm.
thought he was too much like you, and you threw him into the
Yeah.
shit, and you made a mistake. I love that.
Which doesn't help, because I feel like that also eggs him on in like being tough on the guy, because you need to make my expectations come true. And I feel it's interesting that they point out that dynamic of like, oh, I see something in you that reminds me of a younger me, and now I need you to actually be good at this,
Yeah,
which is very interesting.
but it's
Says a
also
lot about him.
I also love the fact that I love the addition of McCoy. How do you feel about McCoy? 'Cause this is your first time seeing McCoy, the Corbomite Maneuver. This is his first eepisode, and I love that dynamic between
Yeah,
him and Kirk.
I get that, and it's he is, because it's less so in the other episode. It is now that I've, because this one's I've seen the next one, so I'm having to go back to because I think there is a very fun dynamic there, but there's also more conflict there in this episode than there is in some others. So there's
Mm-hmm.
so it was an introduction of sorts, but also I wasn't yet sure who to agree with where, and how to, I was still sort of figuring out how they were working in a sense, because it's at the end there's the sort of apology, and and they work things out.
Yeah.
So I wasn't entirely sure who like, they both sort of compromised on that argument, which I guess is good. That's usually how
Mm-hmm.
you resolve conflict. But I feel like it didn't tell me much about McCoy yet, just about
Mm-hmm.
his humanity, and like, okay, go easy on the dude, because you promoted him real quick, and we're all dead ass calm in here, and just doing some peaceful understanding and decision making, and staying real eerily calm. And of course he's gonna flip,
Mm-hmm.
because it's scary stuff, and you're confronted with death suddenly, or at least the countdown to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which
think
really begins when you're born, so in that
sure.
sense, shouldn't have been that panicky.
Right. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of great character work, honestly, with McCoy here, because we really get the sense that he and Kirk have been friends, have known each other for a long time. Like he has that statement, about how he reminds him of Bailey, Bailey reminds him of himself about 11 years ago. McCoy's the one that points that out. He says,
Yeah.
say 11 years ago. Like, so McCoy has at least known Kirk for that long.
Yeah, there is, that about them, and just the fact that he can speak up to the captain like that just speaks volumes in terms of, yeah, there's an established relationship here and a mutual respect that means they can do that.
And also a
And
playfulness.
That's good to have. Yeah, absolutely. There's no sense of it's like they can bounce off each other. They can take it, and there's a bit of push and pull there. Yeah.
I love everything about like how Kirk is like, I've heard you say bloody da, and he's like, I don't ever say that. Like,
yes.
what?
That's multiple times, and I love it.
Yeah, and you just know,
It's like, I swear,
McCoy's full of shit.
where else did I get it from?
McCoy's full of shit. You know it. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
So for the first time ever, we get him saying, "What am I, a doctor or a ...
Right.
Which is really a popular thing, and he does it several times over the course of the series. But it never feels like a catchphrase necessarily. Merchandising has made it that way.
It fits.
But
yeah,
but it's
I don't even remember what the other option was in this one.
What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor? This is when Kirk is angry with him for having him in the middle of the physical and not telling him that the red alert was going off.
Ah, right. Yeah.
And which
was just like, I never get to see you finish a physical, so I just had to keep this from you for another. Yeah. Which is great in and of itself, because it also adds to that serious nature of Kirk always being like, Captain goes first. Fucking the ship is my woman, that they're really hammering home. I feel like that's the only point of the short scene with the female yeoman. Like, you have to eat, and the ship is my woman. I like, it's not that I don't trust myself. I trust myself extremely. I have one woman, and it's the Enterprise, and that's. I feel like they're sticking to that quite well.
Well, I do think that Kirk. I think the thing about it though. And I'm not sure that they had it so mapped out or anything. I don't think they did, but
probably not.
I think there is an idea based on how they portray it, where McCoy seems to know Kirk better than Kirk wants to believe.
Yeah.
So I think McCoy is right. He's like, "What's the matter, Jim? You don't trust yourself?" I think
Yeah, it's a defense mechanism to say that, and that's probably why he keeps saying it, and why everyone keeps saying it, because it's something you have to sort of believe in, but also,
well, to be fair, just to jump ahead, I don't think he said it Mud's women. Mud said that to deter what's-her-face. So
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. There's different people saying it constantly, where the crew also has to sort of buy in. Mm-hmm. People have to. But it's an established thing that, a ship's captain really loves their ship. Like,
he does say it later a few times, but for sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Because, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, but I instantly lost my point as soon as I was like, "Am I talking over you?" And then I forgot what I was saying, which is great radio. It'll get back to me or not. You know how this works.
I do. So what am I, a doctor or a moonshell conductor line that's the thing that always stuck. The part of that quote that I like more was him as Kirk leaves. He says, "If I jumped every time a light flashed around here, I'd end up talking to myself," as he's talking to himself.
Yeah, that's just lovely irony. Like, that's a good joke. I was very happy with that as well. Yeah.
And they do a lot of that with all of the characters here, and apparently, like, looking over some of the trivia, it looks like a lot of that character building, the little comments and stuff, were not in the script. Like the stuff with Scotty, talking about you have an annoying fascination for timepieces, Mr. Sulu, as he's doing the countdown. That wasn't in there, in the script. So there were some interesting things that weren't in there, and then there were also interesting things that I really liked within the episode. When Kirk is talking to Spock, and Spock says, "Has it occurred to you that there's a certain inefficiency in constantly questioning me on things you've already made up your mind about?" And Kirk says, "It gives me emotional security."
Yeah, which is just as a smart play on just. Suck it, Spock. You don't have to get it. It's just a thing I like to do because I do have a lot of emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's so much setup here. Like Sulu telling Bailey, "You try to cross brains with Spock, he'll cut you to pieces every time." Like he's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
telling the audience, like, this is how this is. This is how this is. That's why I
Absolutely.
say
And
it's like a third pilot.
and Spock being very happy he has no adrenaline gland. Just the comments about his biology are fun, because I imagine people have tried and pieced together every single reference to his anatomy and trying to like map it out.
Yeah. Well, the thing I love about that so much is like Spock is really funny, and he's just
Yeah.
he's got such a dry sense of humor.
Absolutely.
And this guy, this like piece of shit nobody, who is gonna
Yeah.
try to be smart with Spock and be like, it doesn't mean I was scared, I couldn't do my job. I happen to have a human thing called an adrenaline gland. And Spock's just like, it does sound most inconvenient. However, have you considered having it removed?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God,
It's such a great comeback. Yeah, Spock is like an obvious favorite. Like there's a reason that he stuck around.
oh God, yeah, yeah.
Like I feel like in some ways in the culture at large he is more of a character than Kirk almost, because I feel like everyone knows that far better than the relatively like comparatively bland captain who is just there.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that is all that Kirk is, but like if you think of Star Trek as a noob, as a nobody, if you have very little affinity otherwise, outside of just cultural osmosis, it's like, oh yeah, Spock, right? Yeah, the ears and the I remember that.
Yeah, Spock
And for good reason.
McCoy seemed to be very, if it wasn't for Shatner's overblown acting, which hasn't, to me, has not been visible so far.
No, it's fine. I hadn't really gotten to the point of having any issues with that. No.
It's not the Kevin Pollak version of it. It's not that yet. It gets there from time to time, but for
We'll
real.
see. Looking forward to it.
Oh, also not in the script. The exchange. I regret not having learned more about this Baylock. In some manner, he was reminiscent of my father. And Scotty says, then may heaven have helped your mother. And he says, quite the contrary. She considered herself a very fortunate Earth woman.
Yes.
That's the first actual
lovely hint. Yeah.
That wasn't in the script.
Oh, okay.
So, but I love that they moved it from ancestors to actually his mother and father.
Yeah, which is just a better story immediately.
Yeah. And I like the headcanon that Spock felt more comfortable, so he was willing to admit that it was his parents.
Yeah, because he looked more comfortable, and he was like, I can share this in confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot more to say about this episode, honestly. Like, I enjoy it. We get the first time Uhura's saying hailing frequencies open, Captain. That is her thing. That's what she's known for saying. She's wearing, a gold dress. By the way, do you like the mini dresses? Because they're here.
I honestly hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
I hadn't really. I wasn't paying attention to it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't. It's
now that you mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't pants, but also
yeah, I feel bad because I'm sitting there and Kirk's whole speech about having a female yeoman, and I chalk it up to less sexism and more him not trusting himself, because in my head, based on how they wrote him, he seems like he's, over the course of the series, he seems more a serial monogamist than anything. But I also know Roddenberry saw him as an outlet for himself, and Roddenberry was not a serial monogamist. So I'm very curious what your thoughts are on that, because it felt sexist, felt weird.
Yeah, it was a bit off, and it's weird, but also I was still sort of confused about what the omen is supposed to do. It's not a function I'm necessarily familiar with, so it's, I mean, I've seen her do nothing but bring him a meal, and it seems like a very close personal relationship in that sense, where it's like, yeah, you're in my private quarters constantly. So I get that it would be this feels slightly uncomfortable because I don't know what will happen, and I mean, there's a less sexist way of expressing that it might not be like that. You'd have to put up some boundaries as a professional, like superior to this female officer. But it's it felt also just sort of out of place to me because it added very little beyond the comment of "Do you not trust yourself?" which is very much, I think, what is going on there. There is just he gets uncomfortable every single time someone is attractive and throwing around, like throwing themselves at him. And
yeah, you say it adds very little, but I think it adds a hefty chunk to Kirk's character.
Yeah. No, I meant in the context of the episode, it felt sort of out of place. It does add a lot to him, because we can talk about this for 10 minutes, but it is probably longer. But I'll get more context as I see more episodes. But it in terms of the story that's happening around that scene, it's very much like, okay, why was this the highest priority? And that then gives me the sense of like, there wasn't that much to the story. There was just a lot of character work that they needed a backdrop for, which is fine because there is enough tension to believably have a bunch of crew freak out in different ways and have some conflict in the on the bridge.
Mm-hmm. And what I love is like mostly Bailey's the only one freaking out. Like everybody else is just like, this is a Tuesday, sweetie.
This is my damn job. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel the way they look at her, like, take him away. And then everyone's just like, oh. And he's like, we're dying in like
just get him out of here.
2 minutes.
This was yeah.
And they're like, come on, buddy. It's okay.
Yeah. We have no use for this kind of energy. Leave us alone.
Yeah. So yeah, there were things in this episode that I really enjoyed, and just it was a very slow burn episode. But I do love getting those.
There's a lot of waiting for the 10 minutes, of course, which
yes.
is occasionally more tense than other times. Because at some point they do establish contact back and forth, and then it's like, okay, I see where this is going, sorta, yeah.
Yeah. So, as for what the yeoman does, I don't know. Because, like, Pike's yeoman brought him reports, and he, like, snapped at her and bit her head off, almost.
Yeah.
And he also bitched about a woman being on the bridge.
Yeah.
After she left. Then we have,
even though there was another one, but it's very clearly just the young and pretty ones.
I know Yeoman Rand, who is the yeoman here. We will later see her. She's also brings like meals to the senior staff. All of the senior staff. She's just in charge of getting their meals and stuff. And I don't remember what all. I'll try to pay more attention because I don't really like her. I don't like her. I don't like the character very much. But she's only in 6 episodes.
Oh.
For a horrible, sad reason. A producer, we're pretty sure Gene Roddenberry, tried to have sex with her and she turned him down.
Damn it. Oh, no. You can't do that in the entertainment industry. God, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a darn shame.
I don't dislike her for that reason. I just never really cared about her character.
It's just they never gave her a fucking chance to do anything at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I did like the first Yeoman better, but
I did too. Yeoman Colt was awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, with her overactive female drives.
Yes. Oh my God, that line. That gives me something to relate to,
Abnormally strong female drives.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we get it. She's young, she's horny, but like, Christ. Oh.
So I gotta ask: watching this episode, did it make you excited to watch more episodes, or was it like, oh my God, if they're all like this, I'm gonna stop this right now?
No, it's like, it wasn't like A tier, oh, I'm super excited to move on. It also wasn't D tier of like, I never want to see anything like this again. Like, it was just sort of like, oh, I can deal with this. This is just if it's not exactly it's not a trash can episode. It's not throwaway. It's just sort of fine entertainment for an hour. You know, it's just okay. I'm learning more about these characters, and that's good enough. Like I enjoy spending time in this space.
Yeah.
More than it is, oh, this is brilliant fucking storytelling, because we're also not quite there yet. And I'm guessing there's just occasional episodes that really stand out. And the other ones are going to be just good fun. And that works for me.
Yeah.
Because at that rate, I also don't quite know what I'm getting into each time, which is fun.
Yeah. Did you notice that they had, for this episode, they'd once again changed, probably for the third time, changed Spock's eyebrows? And this time, dude, this time they gave him like some eyeshadow. Like he was glammed up. Like he had some glittery eyeshadow.
I did notice he had some eyeshadow bling just to darken up the lids. But what changed with his eyebrows again? Because I feel like they're just weird every time, and that's all I register. Yeah, I haven't looked closely.
I think it was like they were real bushy in the cage and pointed, and then like in Where No Man Has Gone Before, they were like bushy but also like slanted up, more pronounced. And now they're like just more like real eyebrows that are just kind of pointy.
Okay.
But now he's got like the eye makeup, which, you know, Queer Trek on Twitter sometimes claims that that's indication that he might be of a.
He just likes a bit of fun gender expression. Leave the man his eyeshadow; it looks good on him. Like if you have that sort of yellow tinge in your skin, like blue goes really well with it. It's a nice contrast. Yeah.
I think this episode is also the most green they ever made him, where they're just like packing it on, oh man, you're an alien, you're green and yellow, and then like the rest of the series, he pretty much just looks like a human. There's
a color, but that's slightly different and not quite.
Yeah,
it's not quite skin, because you can tell there's a layer on there indeed, but it's, I don't know. We'll see the evolution of his look, but that's also the fun of it, where it's like, he's half human. We can get away with him not being outlandishly off.
Yeah. It was funny. My wife asked me, she was like, did they intend it to look like all of the men were wearing so much makeup? And I was like, no, they did that for old school standard rabbit ears TV. They had no idea we'd have high definition film that we were going to clean up and play. That's why you can see Shatner's lace on his toupee.
Restorations of this footage. Like, no, it was for black and white tiny ass TVs with a box behind it that was bigger than the front. Like, yeah.
All right. Well, listen, everyone, if you are enjoying this show and you want to send us feedback and go along with us on this original series review journey, Star Trek Ucast over on Twitter. You can Star Trek Ucast at gmail.com. You want to send us an email. All I ask is, since Matt and I are also still doing our Strange New Worlds new episodes, just separate the emails, please. Love of God, make it easier on me.
just put it in the subject line what you're talking about.
That's what it's there for.
I've heard that before. There's a reason they invented that.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to Star Trek Universe, and we'll be back soon with more Star Trek review content. Thank you, Effie.
I'd assume so. I'll be there. Like, I hope you show up as well.
I'll probably be there unless I die. My God. In
that case, I meant to say, I hope you don't die.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes.
Yeah.
9.
All right. Joe Lontrue, live long and prosper, and whatever else we're supposed to say here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.